What's up, guys, and welcome back. Today we finally have the Yamaha R9 in the shop, and the reason we have it in here is no maintenance or anything yet. For the most part, we're going to do three things. First being turn this thing into GP shift. I didn't ride it all week last week because I'm just so sick and tired of misshifting and then getting on the track and having even a harder time bouncing between the two. Maybe I'm just too old, I can't figure it out, but either way, we're going to switch this over to the GP shift, which there's a pretty shitty thing about it that I couldn't do while I was at the track. So I'm going to show you guys how to do that today. And then, of course, we are going to raise our rear sets. But what's going to happen when we do all of this, we're going to have to change the length of our shift rod here. So we're going to do all three of those things. I'll show you guys how to do it. And yeah, let's get this thing going. If you look here, it's pretty easy. You could just pull this boot off, take this bolt out, and shift it over to here. Now, the problem is there's no threads from the factory in this position right here, which is super annoying. We're gonna get this bolt out. I'm gonna measure it real quick. We're gonna get the right tap, and we're gonna go ahead and tap this out real quick so that we can just put this bolt in here. Taps and dies are fairly inexpensive. You could just buy them individually, one at a time, or you can buy kits. I'll link both down below if you guys are interested, and we'll make this an easy process. So now that we have this little boot here removed, which is easily pulled over, and covering / revealing this little 4mm hex key. Will have some Loctite on it, so it will be a little stiff. Pull this guy out real quick. It has a little bit of blue Loctite on it. Now we'll go measure this thing. Pretty much everything in the world is metric nowadays, and if you buy a kit, you usually get something like this. Allow you to identify the exact pitch of these bolts if you've never done this before. If you spend enough time in a shop working on cars, vehicles, whatever, you will end up doing this more than you like, that's for sure. Of course, it was the last one. It's a 1.0. Little gauges like this that'll kind of help out too. So we know it's a 1.0 and it fits right into this M6 hole. So now we know that we have a M6 with a 1.0 thread pattern. Just in case you guys are interested in any of that. So I found the corresponding little tap here. I will link this down below, the 1.06, and then getting some kind of little T-handle like this. Now, a lot of people will stick this on a drill bit and try and drill through. To me, that's not maybe the smartest way to do it. In certain instances, if you have nice machinery that can do that well, you could get by doing that. In my opinion, this is kind of what us normal folk should be doing right here. All right, now you want to be very careful when doing this because it's going to want to go left and right and spin all over the place, and really what you want is to just kind of hold it as steady as possible and make sure that this is going in perfectly straight as you go, because it's going to want to wobble on you. As we dig through here, we're basically making this hole just a little bit wider, and you can start seeing all these metal shavings coming off. So as we start getting some of these metal shavings, it's good to just kind of back out, clean them off, and then start again. The more metal shavings you leave on side of this cutting bit, you could ultimately ruin some threads with that. So it's just a good practice to go only a little bit at a time. And if it's starting to get firm like it is right now, I'll do the same thing. Back it out, get all of these little chunks of freaking metal off as we're cutting. Make sure a bit has no metal flakes on it. We don't have any metal flakes inside, and then thread her back in again. So it's kind of slow, it's a little tedious. If you just run it all the way in there and it binds too tight as you're cutting, you will, and very easily, especially depending on whether or not how strong your little tap is. But see, it's getting firm again. I gotta back her out again. And if this stuff's heating up too much and it's taking too much time, like, you can try and prevent damage a little bit by utilizing some oil on the tip of your chingadera here. But yeah, see, we're starting to get a little bit out the back there, which means we're almost there. Maybe one more time. So 6 times maybe is what it's taken. 6 times of digging in a little bit and backing out. Uh-oh. Yeah, so now we're hitting the brake in the back there, so be careful with that too. We're officially all the way through to the point now where we'll just do it up here just to make sure we go all the way through. All right, we have made our way through. And we'll just back out, make sure we clean all these little chunks of metal off, and test out our bolt to make sure that it goes in well. but we have a freshly machine tapped, well, arm tapped hole for our GP shift. And for our test run here, same bolt. Oh, look at that. Goes in quite nicely. Okay, so we'll add a little Loctite. Dab of some blue 242 on there. And this is something you could be placing white lithium grease on, hence the rubber boot here to keep some of that white lithium grease in there. But like I would say that would be a common maintenance thing to do to your shifter here, just to kind of prolong life. This thing is brand new. It's only got like 250 miles on it, so I'm not gonna stress out about it. Here, we don't need to like crazy over torque it. I'm just going by hand. I'm probably giving around 14. We'll put our boot over to make sure everything's working. And you can test her out. Yep, up shifts brings us down, down shifts brings us up. So now I will test it out to make sure that we don't have to change anything for quick shifter, and I will let you know how that piece goes. Before we get moving on to the rear set itself, if you like your rear sets but you want GP shift, this would be the time to try and get your 90 degrees out of each angle. And what I mean there is from the center of this to the center of this knob here, you want these things to be at perfect 90s if you can. I know that it's sometimes difficult, and same down here at the shifting spot. The better 90 degree, perfect 90 degrees you get out of your shift rod, the better chance you're gonna have at getting solid, good shifts. All right, moving on to our rear sets. You can see here we've got two fairly large bolts. They look like maybe 6mm, and that they are. So these are should most likely have some kind of Loctite in them as well. Make sure that you're not using some ball end crap. Make sure you're using a nice, solid, correct tool to pop these things. Looks like they're coming out pretty damn easy though, so. We'll get this guy out. Interestingly enough, there is no Loctite on that. And we'll pop this one out. Now, in my opinion, this isn't a perfect fix for the rear sets. I feel that they need to go back farther for me, hence I will get a different style of rear sets later. But for now, while I'm writing it until I get all these parts installed for it or purchased for it, I am just going to utilize the bike as it's designed and try and see how I enjoy it stock first, you know? Sometimes you don't need any of this stuff and all this works out great for you. So there we go. We have our rear sets mounted back on. And what we'll notice now is how low our shift rod is. We're definitely going to want to bring it up a little bit more. And the way we need to do that is there's two ways, right? Because I did mention that we need some 90 degrees here. So we're going to have to loosen this bolt. It's a 5. So we'll grab this guy. This bolt here has to be taken all the way out. And the reason for that is there is a flange that holds this whole bracket onto this shift rod from the transmission. So when you pull this guy out, and now what we're looking at doing is, this is pretty much kind of where this angle is going to be, but now this shift rod is too low. That's where we're going to take this slack up, is right here. I'm going to get my close to 90 as I can. We're not going to tighten this bolt down. We're just going to get it in here for now. And it looks like we have two 10mm, which kind of sucks. So one 10mm will grab this rod right here, the actual shift rod, and then we just need to loosen this locking nut. Now keep in mind, one of these is a reverse pitch thread. So we'll loosen this locking nut all the way up, come down to this locking nut down here, and this one is the same direction, so that means it is the opposite of a normal thread. Do that, take all that out right there. So now with that being done, we could utilize this, well, usually by hand would be okay. Yeah, so now we could raise this up. Now you're looking at trying to get your 90 here, making sure your 90's here, and then trying to figure out the gap you want here. So by bringing this up quite a bit, that's, you know, a lot of those threads are down here, so you might have to keep loosening there, tightening a little bit. and just getting it a little bit higher. We're pretty close to a 90 here. I would say we're a little off here. I might take this bolt out again and just go one more of these little tiny teeth. It's probably as good as I'm gonna get towards the 90 there. And that's probably as good as I think I'm going to get with it. Now, obviously all this can be adjusted more, and we'll spend more time out riding trying to figure out if this is exactly where we want it or not. The last thing that's pretty important when you're putting this thing together is we have what we want for angles. We want to run our locking nuts down. We want to make sure that this wire is still facing this direction. And we also, as we tighten, want to make sure that these two swiveling ball joints here stay as straight as possible. The reason is if they're both canted sideways, they can't really do their job anymore and they'll start binding. So you'll want to really kind of get one as straight as possible. We'll tighten our lock nut here, which does not take much pressure at all. It's probably more than enough right there. This guy is straight. Now this guy is going to be the hard part because we need the boot on here to even get at any of this. So it's going to have to kind of be like centering it out best I can and tightening this nut the best I can. So then you could notice that we have no free play, right? That's because I completely messed up. I did exactly what I said could happen. So we'll basically pop this guy back open, get it centered as best as we can so that we have this free movement. Tighten that guy up, and there we go. So now we have the full free movement that we want in our shift rod there. Make sure our boots get on there as best as they can. It looks like this one's a little tight in there. Got our boots on. Last step up here would be to tighten up our top shift linkage here that we had taken off to kind of get our perfect 90. This doesn't take that much force. We'll get it on there. Now the only thing left is to go and adjust the other side. We'll get that done real quick. Over on this side, it'll be much easier to mess with because all of this is one component here. And we won't have to do any adjustments to our brake. It will come out to the same exact position as we raise it. You can feel a little binding from the brake line, but nothing major. Nothing that's gonna stop us from doing this or creating any issues. All right guys, and that's a wrap. It was a pretty easy thing to do. I know maybe, using a tap to try and get through there can be a little bit difficult, but if you take your time with it, it's pretty easy. It's a simple process. The more you do it, the easier it gets, obviously. But let's go ahead and get this thing on the road real quick. I'll let you guys know if I need to do anything to switch over the QS, auto blip, all that kind of fun jazz. And I'll let you guys know what I think about the pegs and the new positions. So let's get out and ride.
Oh, it's so fantastic. Very, very happy to report to you guys that not only did this work out great for the GP shift and racing the rear sets, but in addition to that, we didn't have to do anything to this motorcycle for GP shift. It already knows that the pattern is that just by flipping it, and the way obviously the electronics work inside, whether it's push or pull, it's obviously a combination of both push and pull, and it knows that we have basically changed it to GP shift, so it works freaking fantastic. I'm super excited for the rear sets. It's nice having them a little bit higher. It's forcing my knees up a lot more, which is nice. It's kind of making them get a little more inside the tank, and I think that's better, but of course I would want them back a little bit farther, but as I stated, at some point we will be putting some nice rear sets on this thing. So yeah, for not doing any of that and the bike still being stock and getting all this done that easy, other than obviously tapping the you know, tapping threads into the shift rod or the shifter kind of sucks, but that was obviously in the video not that difficult of a thing to do. So I don't want to waste too much more of you guys' time. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate you guys. And yeah, so much more to come for this beautiful motorcycle. And let me tell you, I am enjoying the hell out of it. I have not been this happy to not just ride a motorcycle, but even ride one on the street in a long time. So I've also been commuting it for the last few weeks, and I will be happy to let you guys know how that's going here shortly too, as well as fuel mileage and all that kind of fun jazz. But yeah, okay, thanks guys. I'll see you next week. Bye.